Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Lena Unedited. And today's topic is going to be talking about why purpose without profit, or vice versa, breaks you. So before we get going, if you can do that lovely thing of like, subscribe, make comments, all that kind of thing to help me grow the channel, that would be really amazing. So why this topic? So I am a person that is very much driven by purpose. Both of my businesses, both the FTSQ consultancy and the FTSQ gallery, have their own purpose-driven identities. The consultancy is about the supporting the non-conformist, the squiggly-brained, different kind of people that don't necessarily fit in. I want to support those people because they often get ignored or not understood or what have you. So I love working with those people. It makes me happy. The gallery is almost like a subset of that, in the fact that art is legacy. I think that's a really important thing. I think it's the legacy that the artists leave behind, and I also think it's the legacy that the people buying it will then leave to their family, their loved ones, once they've gone. And I think also art in general just leaves a legacy in the world, and I want to support those two areas. I know that when I'm working for an organisation or I'm working with a client where it doesn't fit with those purposes, it can be quite stress driven for me, actually, because everything feels out of alignment. But I'm also well aware I need to pay the rent, I need to pay my business bills, I need to have money to live on, and all that kind of thing. So I do need to make money. And I talk to a lot of business owners that are one of two. They're either purpose driven, but they're struggling to make money, mainly because they go, oh, well, it doesn't matter, I'm doing this purpose. Reality is we all need to live on or something, right? And there are also people that their business doesn't have a purpose, and what it's not about doing is shoehorning in a purpose, but it's about probably there is one, but they either don't recognize it in themselves or what have you. So they're off making money, but they kind of need to align. So I guess that the conversation today is going to be a lot around alignment, I guess. So first question I wanted to sort of ask myself was around, what does success actually mean if one half of the equation is missing? So can you really call it success if you are deeply fulfilled from a purpose perspective, but you're constantly worried about paying the bills? I don't think you can be classed as successful, because if you're worried about paying the bills and you're stressed out all the time, like the purpose side of things is not outweighing the fact that you still got to live life. So it's about having the balance right in there. I also think equally you can't call it success if you are financially successful. So I've had financial success in my career where I was on 6-figure salaries and all the rest of it. There was no purpose driven in any of it, except maybe a little bit around I like helping people. So the connecting of new business, old and new kind of thing had a little bit, but it was pretty much not purpose driven at all. And actually, when I look back at it, a whole lot of my life was feeling pretty miserable because the alignment to purpose, which is so important to me, just wasn't there. So I guess you've got to ask yourself, like, what does the success balance for you look like? And how much does the being able to live and not stress about, can I pay the rent this month? Can I pay the very extreme, sometimes energy bills or the telephone bills, whatever those bills are that you need to pay? Like, there needs to be a balance. And I think you can't live on purpose alone. You need to be able to pay rent, and you need to be able to buy food, and you need to be able to do the things that just keep us alive and make us not stressed, because stress and amount money in itself doesn't help with our health and well-being, mentally or physically either. So the next thing I kind of then thought about was, has there ever been a time when I found myself leaning way too far in towards purpose and not too far towards profit, or the other way around? So in my career life, although money has never been a driver for me, the idea of having a 6-figure salary was always quite exciting. I earned extremely good money, but did I lean too far towards it? Me personally, I did not. I don't think. It was never the thing that was driving to me. So me personally, it was nice to have, but it wasn't what was driving. Success wasn't how I was measuring it. I think a lot of people do, though. They think that, oh, I've got to earn all the money and have all the brand everythings and have the fanciest car and the biggest house and all the things. I personally have never met a person that has ever been truly happy just because they were chasing the pound or the dollar or the euro or whatever it was. They never find contentment in that, because once they hit one goal, it's not enough. They want more. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with having more, but I think if it's what's driving at the heart of everything you're doing, you're constantly going to be disappointed. However, both for myself and for other people, I think I've leaned too far the other way, offering pro bono work, offering volunteer work and all the rest of it. I think you can lean too far the other way and then not be able to pay your bills. So I think I'm at the moment on a really good trajectory, though, of trying to balance the two things. And I think it will always be like making sure that there is a balance. But I think you've got to, me personally, I trust my instincts on where that is. But also I'm really conscious of the fact that, you know, if you've done your cash flow projections for your business, if you looked at your own personal budgets, you know how much you need to be earning to be not worried, right? So for me, success financially is that I'm paying the bills every month. I can put some money away. I can go on little holidays and I can be happy in life and I can buy myself some little treats. What I don't need to do is have the latest car and the most, you know, thousands of pounds worth of bags, shoes, and although I do have lots of shoes, bag shoes and clothes, and have all it brand, you know, logos and brands and everything like that. It's not me. That's just a personal thing. No judgment on anybody else that is wanting that, because great, if that's what you understand you want in life, great, that's cool. But I think we all know, business-wise and personal-wise, if we sat down and did it and put it into a nice spreadsheet or whatever, or wrote it up somewhere, you can figure out what you need to be earning to be comfortable. My one financial, and I'm not there yet, having relaunched in the middle of relaunching my businesses again properly, I know I'm not there yet, because the one measure of success is I don't ever want to go into a restaurant and have to look at the price of the food or the wine to be able to know, well, I don't drink wine anymore, but you know what I mean, the food or the wine, to know that I can afford it. I just want to know I can go into pretty much any restaurant and know I can order anything off the menu. Or at the moment, I am having to sit there and go, that's how much is in the bank account in my head. That is how much the thing is on the menu. Can I afford the expensive thing I really want, or do I just have to have a salad? It's horrible, but that's where I'm at the moment financially. And that's okay, because I have a plan. Things are going in the direction that I want them to go. I've got more clients coming on board and hopefully more. And that is literally because I've had a big, massive block of time in my life where I haven't been able to earn the money. I've had to be on benefits, and it's not been easy. And I've been paying off debt for the business debt on top of that, on a benefit. Been doing it, but it's been tight. So moving out of survival into thrive, I know that, and I'm not going to say what the figures are, but I know what the business needs to turn over and what I need to be bringing in to me personally to be able to be comfortable. And I think you need to be aware of that. When you are purpose driven, the driver can be purpose, but you've got to be realistic about what it is that you need to be earning, both business and personal. So have I ever found myself leaning far much towards purpose? Absolutely. I'm now addressing that and I'm going in the other direction. And I think there are different stages in life, in career, in the businesses that you own, in the volunteering that you do. Like, you need to be mindful. I need to be mindful, because I'm the type of person that at the moment has been saying yes to, like, oh, that sounds really good, I'll do that for pro bono, I'll do that with a delayed payment, or I can't do that. I have to be realistic about what I need to earn and what I deserve. So yeah, definitely. I think any of us can lean. The question to you guys is: are any of you leaning too far one way or the other? Some of you might be leaning too far into purpose. Some might be leaning too far into profit. And I think you need to figure out for yourself. Well, the question is: what is your balance? What is the right balance for you and your businesses to be what you truly would feel contentment and success? So then, what you then need to kind of ask yourself is, at what point does chasing profit start costing you something bigger? And I think for me personally, values, my values personally, and the business's values, which are pretty much the same, they're really important to me. The values for the business is caregiver and maverick. And if anybody knows me personally, well, that's me too. You know, I am a person that cares a lot. But I am a maverick, and I will challenge the status quo, fuck the status quo kind of thing. And I think also, you know, I have to be working with people that I feel get what I'm about and align with the values that I have for my business and for myself. I think one of the things I've noticed is that I don't get stressed by working too hard. I get stressed by working with people that I don't like or that don't respect what I bring to the table. I find that really, really stressful. I find also people that I work with that aren't aligned with generally the values that I have. They don't have to be all the same, but there has to be an alignment of values. I think I get really stressed and it physically comes out in my body. The stress, it affects my sleeping, and it affects my anxiety, it affects physically my fibromyalgia and a whole lot of other things when I don't have those things aligned. And I think I do think that if you just chase profit, then for me anyway, then the cost is my health. It is my belief in myself and valuing myself. I think it can impact your relationships. For me, definitely it impacts my creativity, because I know when I'm stressed or I'm overwhelmed by either workload or emotional disconnect because of those things not being aligned, my creativity completely goes out the window. I need the right headspace to be truly creative in my thinking and my creative output. My integrity bench levels, I think compared to a lot of people, I've been told that they are really high, sometimes a bit too high for some people. I don't care. I'm going to be blunt. Don't care. That is my integrity, and I'm not going to cross it at all. And I refuse to. I think it's wrong. And when I feel like I'm being pushed to go against my integrity, it costs me a lot physically, mentally, emotionally. So, I think you need to, you know, when I work with a lot of brands and founders with regards to their brands, you know, I do get them to go back right to the beginning. I was like, well, why did you start this business in the first place? Now, it might not be an existing positioning documents, and it might not be written down anywhere. But whenever I've worked with a founder that even doesn't know how to articulate that, and I've pushed deep, I can usually get to the reason why they started in the first place, which is why, you know, the Start With Why book that Simon Sinek wrote is something that I recommend any founder to read, to get back to. If they've lost their way, feeling a bit, can't figure out which way their business needs to go, read that book and then ask yourself the questions like, why am I exist? Why does this business exist? Where does it come from within me that I can then put into the business, and then build a positioning that isn't attached to the service offering you have, but is actually why the business exists. I think when you get that right, and you have a reason of why you started, it kind of reinvigorates. And I've noticed that when I've been doing positioning work with founders of businesses, when I've unpacked that and we've finally got to the heart of their why, they have felt excited about their business again, which I think is just amazing. So there's a massive benefit to that. Even though you might not be chasing profit, the benefit tends to be business growth and profit, right? Interestingly enough. So I often get questioned like, oh, why do I need to do this branding stuff, blah, blah, blah. Because it matters. It comes across in every connection or any interaction you have with anybody, with your brand, what they feel instinctively, what you've communicated. That matters, because it comes through whether you like it or not, rightly, wrongly, good or bad, wherever that is sitting at the current moment, that will come across to your clients or prospective clients and customers. So, but then you can go the other way. So on the flip side, why isn't purpose alone enough to build something that lasts? I do work with organisations that are often starting with virtually or sometimes nothing in the bank account. They've got a purpose-driven idea, they've launched something, they've maybe set up a charity or a CIC or whatever, or it's at early stages. And if it's just purpose alone that's driving it and there's not some way of gaining funding, selling stuff, getting some kind of income coming in, the uncomfortable reality is that good intentions don't pay wages, they don't fund growth, they don't allow you to make the impact you're actually capable of offering. The reality is, impact requires money. Rightly or wrongly, purpose is not enough. I know that. And I think deep down, if you are being driven by that, I think you know that as well, if that's your thing, if you've set something up, or even if it's just a business that you've set up that has purpose at the heart of it, but you do want it to be either a social enterprise or you want it to be a not-for-profit or charity, but you still need to make some money to pay the bills, or whether or not you do want it to be a full for-profit organisation that just has purpose underpinning it. I think you cannot just be driven by purpose enough. You need to have a financial plan. You need to have a cash flow forecast so that you know both what your expenditure is, but what your projected income is. And then off the back of that, once you know those things, then your marketing can be aligned to your financial cash flow projections, income and expenditure. But I think personally that I certainly can't live on purpose alone, and I don't think anybody else can either. And I think some people dislike money and they go, I don't like capitalism, and this is not about capitalism. What this is about the checks and balances. It's about the fact that in reality, your organisation, no matter what it is, will need some kind of money, even if that money is just to travel, to pay for travel and to be able to get a bit of software on your computer or whatever. There will be some level of financial input required because that is just how the world works at the moment. Would I like it to change? Yes. Can I change it? No. So I need to work within the current system that we live in. And if anybody says to me, you can go blockchain, look, I think you're in la la land, because at the moment you can't spend it very easily. You certainly can't pay your rent. You certainly can't buy food. And there's a whole lot of things you cannot buy if you're just trying to use any kind of blockchain style finances. Okay. Will that change in the future? Maybe. Will it change as fast as everybody thinks it's going to go? I don't think so. Not for the foreseeable future anyway, in what I've read and in my opinion, combo of the two things. So yeah, I definitely think just purpose alone is not going to build you something that lasts. I think the next thing I needed to talk to you about was compromise, and how do you know when you've sort of started to compromise too much of yourself just to keep the business alive? I've had to ask myself that very question of late. It is why I've been doing things like applying for jobs and things. I've made a decision recently that is not right for me. I've applied for a few for different various reasons. I've mostly been told I'm too experienced to take the jobs and what have you. But I've made a massive decision just as of earlier this week, and that's possibly why you've all seen that I've got a bit more, active on social media. I had a plan B once I made that decision of what I needed to do from a marketing perspective, get these business 100% on their feet, and I am now rolling that out. I am not yet at the point where I personally feel that I've compromised too much of myself to not keep the business alive. I'm very happy with where I'm at the moment. But I do know that sometimes what you can't do in order to keep your purpose going, if you're not getting the financial support that you need, you may have to make a difficult decision of, do you stop it? Do you close it down? Do you get a job? Nobody can answer that question except for you. You can have conversations with people. You can definitely, if it's not me that you want to reach out to, if there's anybody that you know that you trust that you can have as a sounding board, there will come a time when you need to make some hard decisions, one way or the other. You either double down and you do something different to support the growth and financial stability of your purpose-driven business organisation, what have you, or you make the hard decision and go, for now, I need to stop this because this is killing me, this is making me unwell, and it's too much. That is not an easy decision to make. I was pretty close to it a couple of months ago, but I'm glad I made the decision to stick with it because it is the right decision for me right now. It is. It may change in the future. Don't know. But I do think you can compromise too much of yourself, and the impact, again, we talked about this. It is physical health, it is mental health, it is stress, it's anxiety. There's a whole lot of things that can get messed up really quickly if we compromise too much of ourselves, and I do not advise that anybody compromises who they are, what they believe in, and what they care about at all. And if it means you have to bench it to get some income in so that you can push things in a different direction, then I recommend you do that. And I don't like the word pivot, but I'm going to use that word, that you might need to pivot for a bit and do something else in order to be able to support it. And I think there is a line between adapting and abandoning your values. I don't think you should ever abandon your values, but what your activity around that supports those values may need to adjust in order to be able to long-term continue that. But only you know where that line is. And I recommend you be really clear to yourself about what that line is. Which kind of segues into the question around what role do values play in making difficult business decisions? So how do you protect what matters most to you while still making commercially sensible choices for yourself? Number one, you need to know what your values are. So that's number one. Number two is, in order to protect those, I think you need to, and this is not easy when you're a founder-owned business, especially if you're a one-person founder-owned business. Now, if there's multiple founders, that can come with its own challenges because sometimes those are misaligned. But you need to talk to each other and figure out what that is in order to protect what matters. But, and this is a really difficult thing to do, you need to be commercially and emotionally separated from whatever choices you need to make on a commercial level. That can be on what you're charging. It can be on, and a shout out to Robin Waite with his Fearless Pricing book. I have done a whole video on this, which I'm going to be putting up next week, but I'll put a link to where you can get that. And that is about how much do you value yourself and what you charge. And I know that can sometimes feel a bit icky for people, but you need to value yourself and what you're charging on anything, whether that be merch you're selling, whether that be grants that you're going for or what have you. Like, be sensible about it and what have you. But yeah, disconnect the emotional side of things with the commercial side of things. Then what you do is, once you've made some commercial sensible choices, then you pair those back up and make sure that they're aligned. So there's still a alignment there. But I think you need to try, momentarily at least, to disconnect what needs to be done commercially with the purpose and emotion. Not for very long, not permanently, but there are times where you just need to be logical and realistic about what the commercial decisions are that you need to make for your organisation or your business. Sometimes that can be having to let people go, which is never fun. I've had to do that a couple of times in my life. It was awful. I usually sit down and I have a cry. It's not fun. It can sometimes be about making decisions about that extra software that I like using but can't afford. Do I get rid of it or not? I mean, there's a whole lot of things that when you look down what your expenditure is, for example, that you need to make decisions on, and then you go, what do I absolutely not able to run this business without, and what can I do without but get back when I can afford it? Those kinds of questions. It can also be, do I need to think about who I'm having on as clients? Am I taking on too many clients that don't have enough money to pay me, for example? Or am I chasing the wrong people? Or do I try and find a way where... So I've done things in the past where I know clients couldn't afford me, but what I did is and this is a risk I took, I voluntarily agreed to help them apply for funding on the proviso that if we did that, I would get paid for the work that I was about to start doing for their marketing or their any other kind of advisory work that they needed me to consult on. I've done that in the past. And here's what's interesting. 99% of the time when I've done that, we've got the funding and I've been paid. So it's also trusting my own instincts on that as well. But that's a way that you could do it. But you do need to make sensible commercial choices, and you can't do that if you're just making that 100% off emotion. Doesn't, in my experience, work very well. But what it doesn't mean is that you have to compromise things to the nth degree where you feel that you're chasing profit over anything else, because it's not about that. So, yeah, I think values does play a huge role in making difficult business decisions, but you do need to separate the two so that you can be more commercially savvy. So the next question is, I guess, is what does a truly sustainable business look like to me now? It's not just the finances that need to be sustainable for me. I think the emotion that I have in what I'm doing, the creativity that I'm able to express, the respect that I get from the people that I work with, and the trust. Trust is a big thing for me. So when I'm trusted and respected to just get on and do what I'm really good at without micromanaging me and questioning every single thing that I do, I thrive really well in that. And that does take a certain type of client that is willing to trust me and willing to let go and willing to allow me to actually use the expertise that I have that they hired me for in the first place. I get really annoyed when I end up working with people that don't respect that and don't understand why I'm getting annoyed when I'm like, why the fuck did you employ me in the first place? I have fired a couple of clients in the past, only 2. And weirdly, I instinctively, when I took them on, said to myself, they're not right for me, but I took them on anyway because I was worried about money. I fire clients for just not fitting with the way that I like to work. And I'm okay with that. And I think we should all be okay with that, which is hard when you're trying to get businesses on their feet and you've not got a lot of money and what have you. Because I think you need to ask yourself, what kind of life is the business meant to support? Like, I'm a whole person and I need certain things emotionally, mentally, physically, financially to live a happy life, to be content. And to say that you need to have a work-life balance, when you run your own business, I call bullshit on that. I don't think there is a work-life balance. It's just life in balance. Work just happens to be a part of your life, as does your hobbies and your friends and your personal relationships and your romantic life and like all the things. That's just life in balance. I don't personally think there's a work/life balance when you run a business. In my experience, I've seen it in my parents, I've seen it in myself, I've seen it in my friends. It doesn't exist, in my opinion. I think it is literally just the life that you've chosen needs to be in balance. And only you know what that looks like. What looks sustainable as a business to myself may not be the same as what's sustainable for other people. And I think you need to be really clear about what does sustainable business look like to you. So I've explained what it looks like to me. Maybe you should ask yourself, what does that look like for you in all the aspects of life? So I always try and come up with what would be one piece of advice to someone building a business today, and what could I tell you about balancing purpose and profit? Number one, although I've talked about my experiences, I think the one piece of advice I would give is I think you need to sit down and write down and be really, really clear what your values are, where your integrity line sits, what purpose is driving you and what matters to you, that you want to look back on the end of your working life and life, just life, and be clear what the legacy is that you wanted to have left behind and the impact you wanted to have had and the mark on the world that you wanted to leave via your organisation. That's one thing. I think the second part of that is I think you need to sit down and be really honest with yourself about financially what you need to run the business effectively and sustainably. And so that's budgeting, outgoing as well as incoming. And I think you need to be really clear personally and business what you need. I think personally you also need to know what money you need to have to pay the bills, to live the life that you want, to be happy and content and what have you. Only you know that. And I think once you've written it down and be honest with yourself, like people that go, oh, I'm just driven by purpose and I don't need money. Yeah, but we all need money at the moment. We all need to pay our bills. We all need to eat. We all need to have a roof over our head. Even if you are a digital nomad and you're traveling around the world, even if you are house sitting, you still need to eat. You still need some things to pay the bills. Nobody, in my opinion, can live in this world unless you live on a farm and you're completely 100% self-sufficient, can go without paying some kind of monies out. So I think just be honest with yourself about that. So that's my one piece of advice. Sit down, have a piece of paper and go, what are all the things I need to have purpose and to have meaning in my life emotionally, mentally, physically and emotionally, all over there. Then you need to go, so what does the business need to have to function efficiently and well, and have a plan around that and a financial budget around that. And I think you need to be clear about what those two things are so that you do align purpose with profit. Now, it doesn't have to be profit, even if it's breaking even, if you're a not-for-profit or if you are a CIC or what have you. I think you need to be clear what those two things are, because only then can you move forward with a plan of action of things that you need to do to take your business to the next stage. So that's kind of it, really. That's my bit of advice. I think that if I'd had advice on that a long time ago, I think I'd probably be further ahead on my own things, thinking, having been ill, I thought that purpose was the only thing I needed to hunt down, and actually there's a reality to what I need to live. I live in London, not the cheapest place in the world. I have a nice flat, it's not the cheapest place to rent, etc., etc. So I do think that we need to be mindful and clear with written down goals of what your purpose needs to look like for yourself and your business, but then what the financial side of that needs to look to support that to be sustainable. So that's pretty much it, really, from me. So hopefully there's been some interesting experiences from my side of things. Hopefully there's some questions that I've asked you that maybe you need to ask yourself, to sit down with yourself and try and start some planning. Of course, all my contact details are always in the notes on YouTube. And I'm around. If anybody ever wants to just have a chat, I am definitely around for those kinds of conversations. If it goes into the fact that you actually need work done, that's a different story. I will charge for that. But if there's a quick chat that you want to have just to have a conversation with somebody as a sounding board, I'm more than happy to do that for anyone, really. So yeah, thank you for listening, everybody. There will be, as always, transcripts, notes and all that kind of thing. I'll put any contact information in there that you might need to get hold of me. If anybody would like somebody to work with either as a business coach or needs some consultancy done, or maybe you're an artist and you need some advice from a gallery perspective, or you're purchasing or what have you, all my details are there and I would love to talk to you. So yeah, thank you for listening and have a good week, everybody. See you later. Bye.